Gabe Montoya, what are your thoughts on this Mayweather-McGregor fight? Is it good for the sport? Either one, UFC, MMA, or boxing.
I think I'm pretty cynical about the fight. It's Floyd being Floyd. You look at his last 10 fights, and there's not a lot of risks there. He's a gambler in the sense that he always hedges his bets. He makes sure he knows all the information, has everything kind of stacked in his favor, and then he makes his move. And to me, this is a guy that's just going to a whole new market. And like when I talk to my boxing friends, they're not excited about the fight. When I talk to my UFC friends, they're all telling me how Conor McGregor has a shot to win, and they're really hyped for it. But I think it's indifferent, in terms of its effect on the sport of boxing. We were having a fantastic 2017 after a pretty dead 2016 with Bob Arum's Top Rank doing a new ESPN deal and actually bringing marquee fighters to that platform like, Terence Crawford and Vasyl Lomachenko. I think the sport is fine on its own, and Floyd Mayweather has been kind of in his own universe for a long time, just in that pay-per-view world and fighting the fights that he wants to fight when he wants to fight them. So to me, I think it's whenever boxing gets the spotlight on it, that's always a good thing. I really didn't care for I didn't watch all the press conferences, but I caught the what I would call lowlights, the offensive slurs and the language. And to me, it's like the best of boxing is Triple G versus Canelo, two gentlemen of the ring, treating each other with respect, and it's going to be an action-packed fight. Mayweather McGregor is a special event, a mashup, if you will, but I don't think it's going to hurt us one way or the other. If Pacquiao Mayweather didn't hurt us, although I think it did have an effect on the pay-per-view business, this fight I don't think should hurt us if it's terrible, which I think it's going to be.
But De La Hoya says it will hurt us. Of course, he's promoting Canelo Triple G and probably doesn't like the idea of pay-per-view dollars going to that event first.
Yeah, I do. I think he's feeling that. There's no doubt. It's kind of funny though. Oscar came out with his open letter to boxing, not buy this pay-per-view. This is a sideshow, and just this, that, and the other thing. And then video came out of him like last year saying McGregor needed to fight Canelo, and that was a big fight for boxing. So I was like, well, which is it? I guess it's just mainly like you said, he's taken away from his pay-per-views. But if you go back to Mayweather versus Pacquiao, that fight had everybody talking. Like I was at a tech people party that they were having a party for the fight. A bunch of people that never watch boxing, all asking me questions during the thing. Well, my favorite question was in the 6th round, a guy said, "Can you tell me when a significant punch lands? Because I'm having trouble seeing them." I'm like, "You're not going to see one. It's a terrible fight." But and I think since then we've seen lower and lower numbers for pay-per-views. I think Chavez Jr. Canelo was reported at 1 million, but we never saw an official number, I think, from HBO. So it's those are promoter numbers. But with things like Facebook Live, and we've seen this since Justin TV debuted years ago, people are live streaming the fights that they don't want to pay for. They're even live streaming the fights that you normally would pay for just because it's so easy now. I was checking in on one of the pay-per-views recently just to see what this Facebook live streaming is about, and checked it out for a few minutes, and it was I checked out 3 different streams, and each one of them were in the thousands of people watching. So I think things are going to have to change with these pay-per-views. But at $100, I don't see a lot of boxing fans that are definitely going to buy Triple G versus Canelo forking over money to watch Floyd Mayweather take on a guy making his pro boxing debut. I don't think it's going to hurt it.
But Mayweather-Pacquiao did hurt boxing. The casuals just this isn't for me.
No, that party to a person, one, it was the worst fight party I've ever been to. As soon as the final, bell sounded, everybody cleared out. Nobody cared. They all knew, who had won. And a lot of people were saying, I never want to see that again. I never want to watch boxing again. And most of those people don't understand that really wasn't boxing. That's, when you get to that pay-per-view level, it's kind of different than the rest of the sport. It's a little different than the card last night, with, fight fan fighters, like Takashi Miura and, Miguel Berchelt, guys that only we know about. I think it did hurt the sport, but 2017, I think we're slowly climbing back and getting people back to checking it out. I mean, I'm getting asked by casual fans more about Mayweather McGregor, but there are definitely people that are asking me about Triple G and Canelo. And a lot of people, I work out at a gym that has kind of a mixture of fighters and white collar folks, and people were going crazy over the Anthony Joshua Vladimir Klitschko fight. So when you see the heavyweight division healthy, it kind of trickles down to the rest of the sport. So I think we'll be okay. I hope.
Does McGregor win a round?
That's a good question. Like I'll put on because I do a couple of martial arts and I box a bit. I mean, I don't actively spar anymore, but I know what I'm looking at when I'm watching UFC, and I'm a McGregor fan. I really like him. I like the way he fights. He's a little brash for my taste outside the ring, but he could maybe win a round, but that's, the first 3-4 rounds of the Floyd fight is him figuring out your rhythm, figuring out your patterns. Maybe he gives up a little bit, and he's also 40 years old coming off a long layoff. So he might have rust be a factor. And I expect McGregor to be awkward and move in and out and try to just be original in his approach. I don't think we're going to look at a guy that seems like a traditional boxer. I think that would be a complete fail strategy wise. So maybe he wins one round, but I don't think he wins much more. I'm putting myself on a limb. I could end up being wrong, but I just, how do I know Floyd's going to win the fight? He took the fight.
Mayweather winning is nuanced in this particular sense because, in my opinion, Mayweather needs to knock him out to earn the win. For Conor McGregor, this is the Rocky situation. Just going the distance is enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's pretty win-win for him. If he loses, he lost to, arguably the best of our era. If he wins, I mean, it'll be an unbelievable upset. I mean, just people will put him in legend status. Even though, I don't know how you feel, but people say this is the best boxer. But I'm like, well, he was when he was fighting, but Floyd's been out of the game for a while. And other guys have moved up. I would pick Errol Spence to beat Floyd Mayweather right now. He doesn't have all the experience, but he's got power, tools, youth, and an excellent skill set. I think he would beat him. So I look at Errol as the guy ascending towards the best welterweight in the world. Although I know this fight's at junior middleweight, but I mean I wouldn't pick Floyd over many of the top junior welterweights junior middleweights in the world right now. So this is a guy living off his reputation, coming back for a special event. But yeah, if Conor wins, I think it's huge, and that's why I feel like it's not really going to affect the sport because Floyd's not really in the sport anymore. He's a promoter of like Gervonta Davis, one of my favorite fighters out there, but he's not an active fighter. So maybe to the casual fan, this will affect the sport, but to the rest of us, this is. I mean, I'm going to be at Burning Man when this fight happens, and the only thing that I'm really curious about with this fight is somebody going to watch the fight out on the playa out there where there's really not much technology? Am I going to find out during that week, from somebody who won that fight? That's the only thing I'm really curious about with the fight.